thunderstorms, highs near 62. For KTUI, my name is Rocky.
KTUI time is 10:05, and the current temperature is 62 degrees. I'm Sam Scott for KTUI.
Good morning and welcome back. Here we are live at the White Mule Winery on the high plains of Gasconade County. 63 cloudy degrees here at airtime, but a beautiful morning it is. Not as much rain in the last week as they predicted, but ample supply, probably around 1.5 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood in the last 7 or 8 days. And
too much rain.
You know, it's an ample amount for this time, but we've had a lot of days where just been a dry drizzle and you know, not accumulated a whole lot, just enough to make it smeary and tacky in a lot of places, and makes the grass grow, though. There's no question about it. I've seen last week that 23 days average in the month of May that we normally have rain, and about the same in June, actually. So no wonder we always have trouble, Grace, getting our hay up and dry, you know. But I don't know where those numbers come from exactly, because you know, sometimes it rains here and not at home. You know.
That's true.
So you know, it's pretty sporadic. Hey, welcome. Good to have you back here this morning and on KTUI 1560 AM, 94.1 FM, or possibly you're watching us live on Facebook. Good to have you aboard here this morning. And Gracie, have you had a good week?
Have had a good week.
Another turkey?
Nope, I just had one. Ben got another one with his bow.
I seen him the other night and talked with him while we passed on the county road, and he said he's got his second one and got that with a bow. So you guys will have plenty drumsticks for
Yes,
your new
we
baby
will.
to eat on, right?
Yep.
Have you ate them yet?
Not yet. We still have some from last year.
Well, you'll have to have a turkey fry one of these days.
Yes, we will.
Hey, this morning we have a guest here that's really no stranger to the White Mule and a stranger to our program. I think it's been a couple of years probably since he's been here last time. A lot of times he comes and talks about his Heritage Day events, Clyde Zels, and we're going to talk about that somewhat today, but we're also going to talk to him about his new official Gasconade County Administrative EMD. Emergency Management Director.
Director of the Emergency Management Agency. So it's a mouthful.
Yeah. So you know, basically that's been a position that has been in Gasconade County since the nuclear plant was built back in the 70s or early 80s is when those positions were made available, and funding come through Ameren UE at that point for that position, and the theory behind it was since there was a nuclear plant being built, that this was in the first fallout range, if in fact there would have been a nuclear explosion or a nuclear release, a plume, that county would have a way to evacuate those areas. If you think about where Morrison, Missouri is, and just basically right across the river, we're probably within 7 to 10 miles, of that, plume, where the plume could end if there was some kind of a disaster that occurred there. So a plan was needed, and therefore a director was chosen by Gasconade County, and I think Dick Hudson was the
Dick
first.
Hudson's who I used to help, and that's a lot of years ago. So I think
It ain't that long ago,
No, it's
Clyde.
quite a while. But I honestly believe that every county has an emergency management agency and director, but we're different there's 4 counties that you're talking about that are different and affected by Callaway Power Plant. But every county has an agency, just like they have a sheriff's department. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. I'm a one-man show, so it doesn't get smaller than Gasconade County's agency.
They do today, but probably when it started, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure that they did, because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly when it started, but I know that the main funding source, you know what I'm saying, for your position at that time, and I don't know where it is today, but the main funding, you know, came from Ameren UE,
And it is still the main funding.
to you know, be able to take care of that, you know, part of the salary anyway, or the majority of that, as well as other expenses. Do you still do the tabletop exercises from the county that we did when I was there 20 years ago?
In August, we have a non-graded drill. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
And then in September, we have a graded FEMA drill to just, and you used to be there. So the goal is for them to see how the county would handle an emergency, how well we would work together with the sheriff's department or the road department. And so we've got that coming up in August. So
You haven't been
I'm
through one of
sweating
those
bullets
yet.
and nervous about that, because I've never been through that. But from what I can see, I'm lucky. Most every other department that's going to sit around a table has went through it before, so I'm going to be surrounded by a lot of good people. And then I've got a lot of experience both in the United States
Sure.
and overseas in extreme emergencies. So I'm sure I'm the right guy for the job.
Well, you know, it is, you know, a thumbnail sketch of the situation. You do have basically all the agencies of Gasconade County, you know, sitting at the table, as well as the state participates in it, you know, as well as the federal participates in this. And they have, you know, the sheriff's department, of course, the ambulance, you know, districts, you know, that are involved in it, the fire districts that are involved with it, you know, as well as some fraternal organizations that take roles in the particular evacuation if it was necessary, school buses and those
School
particular
buses, health
things,
department.
sometimes the health department. So everybody's sitting around the table, and they have scenarios come up, and you know, that, you know, an incident had occurred possibly, and then what the protocol, okay, to enable everybody to get out of those particular radiation zones as quickly as possible. Like I said, we're only 7 to 10 miles, so, you know, it goes down from the basic thing of evacuating schools and hospitals if needed. So therefore you have interworking relationships or agreements with other hospitals, you know, other school districts, what do you do with the kids, all of these particular kind of things, if in fact there would be an emergency that comes down, even to the point of, you know, what happens if you do have, you know, a major situation, and you think about things like livestock. Who's going to go out and expel those, you know what I'm saying, or who's going to take care of those, you know, situations to, if they were damaged by radiation, to make sure that they're cared, you know, taken care of and taken and buried properly, and doing whatever, incinerated in order to do it. So it's pretty extensive. It's kind of a you know, interesting situation.
But you're focused on what we're going to do the drill on. But my role also, as you know, is to think about tornadoes, think about floods, think about any kind of an emergency that really gets big enough. So one of the first things I did was to take some of the resources that we've got, like cots, blankets, generators, food, and instead of having them all our eggs in one basket, because a lot of that was stored in a warehouse in one spot, and we started moving it to 2 or 3 or 4 different places throughout the county, so that if there was a tornado and it hit that building, or if there was a flood, I can get the sandbags, I can get the things I need, and I've got them in 4 or 5 different places, which I think was smart. Hopefully, we don't need any of those things, but
Well, odds are we're going to need some of those, because we know the history of just where we are, not up on this end of the county necessarily, but flooding is a continually current event, and I would almost assure you that probably this spring that there will be concerns of flash flooding or flooding in parts of our county, because we deal with several rivers within large population areas. Of course, Herman is one of them, but also Chamois, and also Chamois is not in Gasconade County, but Morrison, Gasconade, those are all cities, as well as a lot of roads, that are impacted, both county and state, that are impacted by the Missouri and or the Gasconade River.
I've got a vehicle, I've got a trailer, we've got it full of strategically placed supplies, so that at a moment's notice we can take this vehicle and this trailer and go wherever the emergency is. So I believe that we are about as ready as you can be if there was a problem. Again, I thank God that I can reach out to state, I can reach out to the federal, and I can reach out to other counties through these mutual aid agreements, so that if we had a problem, they will also help, just like we would help them.
Do you do anything in regard to the pandemic, or do you have a plan in regard to the current situation in regard to the coronavirus plan?
I took over basically the first of the year.
Right.
So the pandemic was already going. And what we had decided to do was to let the health department be in charge of this pandemic. Now, I help them with resources. I'll help them if they need something. But overall, it's our Gasconade County Health Department that has been taking care of that.
And Clyde, because I guess I was fortunate enough to go through, a lot of these years, what I'm saying, and the protocol and the organization behind an emergency situation, I was stunned by the federal government's lack of ability when the pandemic come down the chute, because there did not appear to be a vision or a plan, that was implemented or put together for such a catastrophic event that would have impacted more people. And I was shocked, in all honesty, that there wasn't a better information and plan, put together when this occurred, or if there was, that it wasn't implemented, or there wasn't, it hadn't been thought through. Because I would think, and you're an overseas veteran.
Yes.
You know that the new wars, will probably be fought with chemical, situations, and those pandemics and whatever, more so than hand-to-hand combat, or M1s or AK-47s or whatever. I mean, that this will probably be part of the future, that we need to have some kind of a vision or some kind of implemented plan ready to be able to take a hold. And
I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. Maybe we should have been better prepared for that. We spend money so crazy.
I mean, the money,
we could certainly get prepared.
just look at Gasconade County, what we spend. You know what I'm saying? Look at what we spend for emergency kind of situation. Look what the state, spends on it. Look what the federal, I know, spends on it. I'm just saying that I think it's something worth discussing and talking about, and visioning toward the future on what are we going to have to do. And I hope we got, I hope we're getting value off of them. I know we're spending the money.
Are you thinking, though, that it should be from the top down? Because, basically the way
I'm not making any of those assessments.
Designed.
I'm not making any of those assessments at all. It's no different than in Gasconade County. Is it from the top down or the bottom up? It is a plan, what I'm saying, that comes to, and, Gasconade County is its own entity, and that the county commission, even though you're going to have lots and lots of discussions about this, in a situation such as that, the sheriff wields a lot of power, what I'm saying, in the county. But the bottom line of who makes the call, what I'm saying, if the county commission, then the sheriff.
The county commission is ultimately responsible.
That's exactly correct. Now that you're going to go through this, I guarantee you.
I'm going to tell them, this is what's going on, this is why it's going on, this is what I think, based on my training, we should do. But at some point, it's their call.
And that's all I'm saying about the federal and the state level the same way. There wasn't, you know what I'm saying, a pre-thought situation, and laws might, you know, impact that and be different. And I don't want to dwell on this. I'm just saying that, you know, having an emergency plan at every level and having a plan is got to be one of the most important government functions that there is.
So that we get off of this just a little bit, I think that it should be more of the state, each state, and less about the federal government. But we got to work together, and there are things, and this pandemic was one of them, that affects the entire country, affects the entire world. So you're not going to get me to say that we shouldn't have had a better plan, but I just don't think it should come straight from the federal government.
Well,
I think it should start and move up.
That's for another day, another discussion. So, as you indicated, you know, there's a lot of connotations, you know what I'm saying, to what you're doing, and, you know, weather is probably the first and foremost, you know, situation that realistically, flooding and tornadoes and those things that we deal with in the county. So you work with that also.
Yeah, we've had tornadoes and we've had flooding, and we get them from time to time. And we've had events where the blankets and the cots were needed because we've had, like this past winter was very cold. So that's more realistic than to think that there's going to be a power plant problem. But either way, we have plans and we have SOPs. We have. I think we're very prepared for just about everything that at least I can think of. Somebody asked me not long ago, well, now what is your job? And I said basically Gasconade County has asked me to be the county prepper. Really think about the things that could go wrong and how are we going to mitigate that. So that's what I do. But like I said, it's with tornadoes, with floods, with severe weather as far as cold, we've already dealt with that. As far as the Callaway power plant, I was absolutely amazed at how redundant their safety measures are. I mean, they have really, really tried to make sure there would never be a problem. And I don't think there could be a problem there. I think if there's a problem there, they will be able to stop it there.
Well, I hope,
based on what I've seen.
And I do agree. You know, touring that, you know, they have a lot of safety precautions, and, you know, since terrorism, even getting through that plant, you know what I'm saying, takes a security check, you know what I'm saying, of the utmost to even go through and do it. But I'm not probably quite as comfortable, you know what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen, no, but things do happen. And that's what emergency management is about, correct? Is when they do that. Because, I mean, they've been closed, you know what I'm saying, for this last, they're back running again now, aren't they? Aren't they fueled up?
I think they start in June, back and running.
So that place has been down for a year and a half? A year?
And they took advantage they did a lot of maintenance. Since they were down anyway, they just stayed down a little bit.
But it wasn't a planned down. It wasn't a planned refueling when they went down.
That might have been before I got this job. I was in Montgomery when one of their big rotors, they brought that through. Did you see that?
No.
I think they had sent that to New York to get retooled a little bit. So when I asked, when are you going to be up and running? I'm pretty sure they said June. And why was you down this long? It almost all ended up being, we just decided that we're already down. We might as well just do anything and everything that we can think of. And so that prolonged it a little bit.
Yeah, because once you are shut down the coolers, I mean, that's a whole process in itself, getting that heat dissipated and, you know, taking care of the radiation, you know what I'm saying, that you know, that you're exposed to and getting, or not exposed to, but, you know, cleaning that out so you can have people go in to refuel. Those are all issues that, you know, are important. They're way above my head, but
you can get a lot of people to say that's one of the cleaner ways to generate power.
Oh, I'm not arguing that one bit. I mean, I think it's got to be part of our overall energy. There's, you know, in my opinion. But so as EM, when excuse me, I remember quite a few years back, Clyde, that we was in Rosebud and had a JC shooting match. And after the JC shooting match, I took the meat truck back to Union Meat. And this was a time when the tornado hit Landwehr subdivision out in Owensville. And I wondered what in the world was going on, because I had a big old meat truck kind of like this. I had a wind pushing me and, emergency vehicles coming at me, didn't know exactly what was happening. I knew it was dark back there, but how is your job in some kind of particular event, such as a tornado? What occurs there?
Well, if there's a tornado and there's a lot of need for the resources, I either have them or I can get them. And then I would work with the sheriff's department just for the security of it. In the end, I facilitate. I'm almost like the orchestrator that's leading, the conductor that leads the orchestra. So I really believe in the end that all of these agencies that are going to need anything, they're going to come to me. And in some cases, if they're needing grant help, money help, just to rebuild, it needs to funnel back to the emergency management agency to be able to get state and federal aid. That's the proper way to get that. But at the emergency, when it happens, when it takes place, I'm going to respond just like all these other agencies that you're describing is going to respond. And I'm going to make sure that each agency is able to communicate. And I feel like, at least in Gascony County, we're very fortunate. The sheriff's a good guy. He tries really hard. I get along with all these people real well. So I think that relationship that I've built is going to mean that we can get the help where we need it without having anybody say, well, you're not in charge, or he's not in charge, or I can just say, let's all come together and get this job done and forget about who's supposed to be in charge. And with me, they'll do that. So let's go ahead.
No, well, we think of Joplin. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I went to Joplin also.
We all been there. You know what I'm saying, and helped and seen that
When I was quite a bit younger, I went with Dad on that, and I went to Joplin. And you and I were both presidents of the JCs in Rosebud. Now that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long. It is a
That's
long
getting to be a
time
while ago.
But I think these discussions are important so people kind of know. Since when that occurs, obviously. Multi-counties, were impacted by this event in regard to this mega tornado, that occurred. Multiple counties, state help and federal help, absolutely needed in regard to that. So, how do you communicate with and facilitate with fire departments, ambulance districts, different jurisdictions in regard to police, sheriffs, and those things, to look at the situation and figure out a needs assessment on what you're going to do, and then how do you communicate that needs assessment and get the decisions made to ask the governor for help and ask, for federal help. Usually that always comes through the state, what I'm saying, but it kind of goes to, the state first,
federal declaration,
and then goes to the federal.
I have direct lines to our county commissioners. I have direct lines to every agency that's in this county, and then I have direct lines to SEMA and to FEMA. But I would start with our county commissioners and
well, you have to,
SEMA.
correct?
Right.
I mean, the county commission has to make the declaration that
The
they
county
need
commission
it,
has
correct?
to make it.
Right. You recommend it.
Based on my recommendation,
Right.
they can decide. So obviously, we're going to be at a scene. Well, let's just stay with the tornado. We're going to be at the scene, and we're going to decide just how much damage is really here. Is this way beyond what wind and one or two insurance companies? I'm going to get the county commission there as quickly as possible, and we're going to run it up to the governor as quickly as possible. Now, all of that's not more than a day. I mean, if
No.
we get on it,
No.
in one day's time, we
Sure.
can be in front of the governor and say, this is what's going on and this is what we need. So, and then I'm fortunate, we have our Gascony County 911. You and I were both part of designing that and building that, and that's in Rosebud. And so I'm able to talk to them, and they're able to communicate to all these different agencies. And again, I would facilitate. If the sheriff said, these are the things I need, but the moment the sheriff, it's beyond his deputies, he's going to come back to me and he's going to say, I need these things, and I'm going to know how to get these things. Maybe you need to get the National Guard out just to help with security. In our county, it'd be more likely that we could just ask each town, send some law enforcement to help us for a few days so that there is nobody steals something. And for the most part, nobody in Gascony County is going to steal something anyway. If you just put a little resistance there and say don't, they'll mostly good people.
But the Guard brings on lots of other resources too.
My son's is military police, National Guard.
But it's not only security, it's water, food, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Shelter,
National
built in.
Guard's been helping with the pandemic.
Yeah.
They've been helping when we set up these sites for mass vaccinations. And I get people ask me all the time, well, are you do you think we should get vaccinated? I want to stay away from that. I went ahead and got vaccinated. I'm not so sure that that's right for everybody, but I think you should decide individually what's right for you. You're with child here, so I'm sure that would be a no for a while. My wife was raised a whole lot closer to being a Mennonite, to where she really just has no intention of getting any shots. And it wouldn't matter what shot we're talking about. Me, my being in the military, we used to just line up and they would give us vaccinations like cattle. I had the anthrax shots because when we were running through Baghdad, there was a likelihood of chemical weapons being used, and we didn't want to die or bring it back home. So I have a lot of faith in vaccinations where some people don't. But I understand both sides of the deal here now.
So, in your capacity at this juncture, you've got an office at the courthouse, correct? And you're in there doing this planning, but there's more to it than sitting down,
Right.
once in a while doing it. Your job, the primary, a lot of your function is to keep the communication lines and keep the understanding, of the global area in Gascony County, what's going on. Correct? I
Correct.
mean, one of the things we're hurting for in a lot of situations is volunteers of every kind. You know what I'm saying? Fire departments, are struggling, to find,
Churches are struggling. People aren't volunteering like they used to. Or if you ever look, it's the same 7 people that are a part of every organization or every church function. Law enforcement right now has been. I love cops. I've been a police officer since April 2nd, 1999. So I'm very pro law enforcement. But they're having a hard time. They're having a hard time recruiting people. Nobody wants to do the job. Fire departments are having a hard time. Another job that the sheriff and I have both been working on is just court security. My job is I'm in the basement at the courthouse 2 days a week, but I'm also looking at fire drills. I'm looking at the whole courthouse security, making sure that nothing happens from, say, a domestic courtroom dispute or a terrorist attack. So there's a lot that I'm doing besides planning for tornadoes or Callaway power plant problem or floods. And even on floods, I'm in charge of the floodplain management, which I'm trying to get my head around just what that means. But we're just trying to make sure that people don't build in the floodplain. When I can look at them and say, we know that it's flooded 3 times in the last 100 years right here. Here's the line. So, I'm part of that also.
And that's kind of a thankless job because, we all know where, homes and businesses or whatever happens to be there, and they've been there for generations, sometimes, that it's going to be hard for them not to build back on their home or not to redo to
But
some
really,
degree.
it only affects insurance. As I understand it, if it's your ground, all I'm really doing is telling you, making sure you know, it floods here. It's likely to flood here. It's flooded here on these dates.
Sure.
And then
Sure.
you're not going to be able to get insurance if you build here.
No, I agree.
that
The
point on, you gotta
the
do
government
something.
shouldn't have any, in my opinion, shouldn't have any,
your ground
right
to
to tell
build.
people what to do on their own property. That becomes more of a finance issue and a
Right.
bank issue. But on the other hand, when we write grants to them people, 8 out of 10 times, you know what I'm saying, then the government does play a role in that who gets that,
mean if
who gets the
every-
flooding, yes. Who gets these dollars, you know what I'm saying, even though they're not covered by insurance. And those are hard issues to resolve. Don't misunderstand me because, especially in regard to businesses and location is everything, and even though they do lose, their businesses or they have to clean up, occasionally, they bring so many economic dollars into, you know what I'm saying, those communities that these are hard calls.
You're not going to get somebody who believes more than me in that if it's your ground and you're paying your taxes, you do what you want with it. All I try to do is tell them maybe 10 feet from here makes a whole lot more sense than here.
Right.
And then, like you said, when you finally, if something bad happens and it's time to rebuild, now, if you want insurance, if you want that insurance, then you're going to have to rebuild to suit the insurance. Or if you've got money borrowed from a bank, obviously the bank is going to have some influence on how, you need to lift this house up 6 feet. So that's a job that I'm actually just going to go to Jeff City again for some training because it's hard for me to totally understand what they're.
And I guess since we've been through it so many times, the 100-year flood is one of those particular.
It seems like it happens every
things
25 years.
that's exactly right. 4 out of the last 5 years we had the 100-year flood. But I mean, they're actually lines drawn on a map, that shows, how many feet of water, that they had in these particular areas, and making assessments of those, but things change, the river changes, you know what I'm saying, how that water runs, it all makes a big difference, and just small things like in agriculture, having some of these cover crops that people are putting in now will have an impact, you know what I'm saying, on less water, you know what I'm saying, coming down the streams in the wintertime. I mean, those are things that make very difficult policy, you know what I'm saying.
To me, there's a reason when you look at all the old German towns that all the houses were up on the mountain.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to go back to. People need to start just building up on the hill. But
so let's talk about Zelschville, and you've got Heritage Days coming up, and that's what you still call
so
it.
this Saturday, we used to call it a rendezvous, and we called it Heritage Days a few times. Mostly now, the rendezvous used to be 3 days, and that was more than I could handle. So now we just do 1 day a year for probably the last 5 years, and it's just Bluegrass Music Day. It's a Bluegrass Music Festival. So for 1 day, which would be this Saturday, hopefully it doesn't rain, starting from 11, going to 4, all kinds of people come out to my house just 4 miles south of Rosebud.
On T.
On Highway T. But pretty easy to find. I'll have a bunch of signs. And I, as you know, because I just gave you a tour, as a little boy, I love log cabins. And I have built all kinds of log cabins out there. Each one, whether it has a purpose or not, you just stand there and you look at these old log cabins. Some of them are new, that I hand hewed or bandsaw milled out. Some of them, like the church and the old schoolhouse, are historically accurate old buildings that I took down and moved. The church used to be a Quaker building that was towards Potosi, Quaker church. I moved it, put it there, and I don't know what year that was. I bet you that's been 11 years probably. And we have church there twice a month, which I couldn't hardly believe, you know. We rebuilt this old church, and we had one of these Heritage Days. So that's this Saturday, bluegrass music. Starts at 11 to 4. But we had one of these events, and my wife said, well, you need to at least dedicate this old church since you've rebuilt it. So we had one service there. And next thing you know, every Sunday people kept coming. And we ended up having church there for 11 years. So now what we do is every second Sunday and every fourth Sunday, we have church services there, and there's probably never a time there isn't 30 people there. So I think
that's awesome, you know, and your community is unique. It is, you know, depicts an awful lot of things from, I would say 100 years, but I'm going to have to go back for
more than that.
150 plus years ago. You know, that you have there. I mean, you got the old jail, and you got
blacksmith shop.
You know, the blacksmith shop, of course. You got the church. You're working on a bakery kind of a situation, and you know, just all different kinds of
trappers cabin, and there's just
trappers.
I have rebuilt probably 23, 24 different log cabins, but not all of them are there. Some of them were for other people. And I got tired of always doing it for someone else and then standing back and saying, that's a beautiful old log cabin, but for someone else. So now I probably have 15 buildings or so on my property. So it's we get a lot of people that just come and just stop and just look around and touch the old tools or touch the logs or look at the animals.
It's very interesting, very quaint,
and
I too love that you know, old hand-hewed logs and those things, and just love to think about what it would have been like, you know, when my forefathers, you know, come here in 1860s, you know. It was
no
a different time, and
it would have been great.
Pardon me?
With no cell phone, it would have been fantastic.
Well, you know, it was. It is still pretty awesome, and I think about it a lot. I think that's probably why I'm drawn to looking at a lot of these Alaskan wilderness kind of you know, situation, because you know, self-reliance. You know, I mean, it's all about that and what they had to be and what their demeanor had to be and how hard they worked, and you know, nothing was easy, of course, but very fulfilling. It had to be very fulfilling, you know, for those individuals.
Make things with your hands, put something in the ground, God will help it grow. Now, you know, my wife and I, we live basically off-grid. My welding shop that's there has normal electricity like anybody has. But from that point on, then it's solar panels or wind generator or rain catchment. When it rains, we catch all our water and use our water for drinking water or for washing water. She was washing by hand. We went all out on this, but she was washing by hand for years. And I rebuilt a 1921 Maytag wash machine. 1921. Still 1921 motor on it. I had to change the belt. Everything was rusted shut. I had to fix this thing. And she was washing clothes yesterday.
Is this one of those old things that you got a foot pedal on it?
A little gasoline?
Yeah.
We had the gasoline one. Now we've got an electric one that I just hooked it up to where it runs off an inverter, off my solar panels through an inverter. But it is a 1921. Now this is what, the year 2021? That thing still works. If you bought a brand new washing machine today, you know, 4 or 5 years from now, you're buying another one. If you're lucky.
You call Russell Blankenship when it goes out?
Sometimes I haven't called Russell on this one. I called him once too.
The Maytag repairman, you know?
We've got propane refrigerator, propane lights, or candles. So, and we do all this just because we enjoy living different, talking a little more, and instead of just all the. And we might watch TV once in a while too, but you can't watch TV. You can't just turn it on and walk away for a week because you're depleting your power and your batteries. You turn it on, you better watch something, and turn it back off again. So if people come this Saturday, I'll give them a tour, show them how we live. Mostly this Saturday is about the blacksmith. There'll be different people playing music.
Who's playing? I mean, local bluegrass people?
Yeah, Joe Smith is local. He's fantastic. And then Ronnie Lindbergh, which is an Owensville name, mandolin, top notch. So I've got a 5-man band that plays quite a bit. They've been playing in Herman. They're as good as anybody I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to Branson many times. These guys are as good as, if not better than anybody you've ever seen. What I can't control is we put in our advertisement you're looking at, we put shade tree pickers also. Well, it's like a shade tree mechanic. I mean, you might get somebody who, I've got one little tiny, I got a grandson, I don't know how old he is, but he's a little guy, and he's got a canjo. Have you ever seen a canjo?
No.
So it's homemade. It's an old cigar box. It has one string instead of so it's a banjo sound. And if he's got the courage, he keeps telling Grandpa here he's going to get up there and play the only song he knows. But it's just one string. It's a banjo, but it's canjo. And
cool.
So I told him a lot of people were coming just to watch him do that, which he may not show up now. Got too nervous.
If you get the opportunity, and I don't know how much traveling you do, but you would love Lukenbach, Texas, if you haven't been there, because it is. We were there a couple of years back around Fredericksburg, Texas, and it was kind of the center of our trip because it's what you're talking about. I mean, they too are very, very, very rustic. Everything is, homemade. Not 100% off the grid as you are, because they have electric there, but they have everything is homemade. Everything is 100 years old. Now they do sell some stuff that is new and whatever, like hats. It's a great place to buy a hat at Lukenbach. But they just sit around, and people are underneath, shade trees, and they have a couple of stages, of course.
So different vendors, different people are creating.
Not a whole. I mean, they sell beer and those kind of things there, but all out of old buildings, and it's pretty awesome. You won't know exactly how it is until you get there, and you really gotta watch the signs, because you go down a gravel road into wherever, and you pull into this and say, well, this certainly can't be it, because it's just out in the field, and they don't, but it is awesome. You know what I'm saying? And that's where Willie Nelson. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of his favorite songs, and they're the ones that all played there. I mean, everybody that. Came up through the ranks in Texas in regard to country music, spent time in Lukenbach, and there's nothing there other than those set of buildings. And
I've been in 30 countries, but I think I've seen America the least. It seems like when I'm in the United States, I'm just working, but I would like to start traveling and just seeing the country. We have the best country in the world. I just need to see more of it. But I've been in at least 30 countries and lived in probably 6 or 7 of them, though a lot of them was in Africa.
So Saturday, what time are the doors open, or what?
So I would say you get there. I don't care when you get there, but the music starts at 11, and then when they take a break, turns into the shade tree pickers. And the other part that I forgot about, but you reminded me on the food. My wife right now is making cobblers. This entire thing is free, and she will feed you. If you show up, she'll feed you on a wood cook stove. She's been cooking for days. So again, we don't want it to rain, and it may rain. But no matter what, rain, slip,
rain or
snow, rain or shine, we're going to do something. She feeds you and listen to the music, bring a lawn chair, but I've got a lot of places to sit. And when the shade tree pickers get up, hopefully they are okay, because I can't control that. Somebody will get up and say, I'd like to do one song, and that guy might be the best you ever seen, or he might not be, but he gets his song. But that's while the band's taking a break, and sometimes that's the most memorable part of the whole thing, is when things go wrong.
So anytime Saturday. You do any dancing out there? I'm sure people do, you know.
Yeah, I don't really have a place to dance, and inevitably,
Somebody else.
3 or 4 hours into it, there will be somebody dancing.
Yeah.
No, it's a family deal.
Yeah.
All right, so even if a guy wanted to bring a drink, put it in a cup that doesn't say beer. All right, that's about the only thing I ask.
Yeah.
Because I'll have, there's Mennonites there. Depending on different, sometimes we've got a couple Amish people that come from, well, the Mennonites come from Versailles, but there's a couple Amish that come from farther down. I can't think of the name now. So, you know.
Sure, respect everybody's respectability, and you know. So it's this Saturday. It is Heritage Days. You used to have a guy come from Montana,
And he would sell whatever he had made.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah.
He may show up, but he likes to set up for 2 or 3 days because he had a giant tent, and it really, you had to set up a bunch. Yeah, it'd be there for 3 days to justify bringing that giant tent.
Oh, sure.
But there'll be a lot of people here. If the weather permits it, there's going to be quite a few people that'll do blacksmithing. There'll be quite a few people that are, there's an older woman that does quilts. And so you can learn something, which is the goal.
Does she
The goal
do
is not
the
to sell.
stitching and stuff on
The goal is
sheet?
to watch her stitch, watch her make the quilts, watch the blacksmith, who's really a retired machinist, and come and see the biggest anvil, which you saw, the biggest anvil that probably most people will ever see in
What'd
real
you
life.
tell me, 500 pounds?
That one's a 500-pounder. I've got 3 or 4 anvils, but the biggest is a 500-pound anvil.
That's a big anvil. That's huge.
It's the biggest I've ever seen. I'm
tell you
proud to
what.
own it.
And I don't guess you use the skid steer to move that around. You know?
I was out there moving it yesterday. I put some white rock down, and it took my tractor. You know, you got to have a tractor. I can grab half of it at a time and walk around with
Yeah.
it. But if you really want to set it straight down, you better have a machine to help you, or a bunch of guys.
You know, anvil's always, you know, sat on a block of wood, you know, and I guess you know the reason for that, but, you know, the bottom line of it is that, you know, they wanted something to give a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Wood don't give a lot, but it's an awful lot better than concrete, and it takes the bounce, you know what I'm saying, out of it when you hit an anvil. You're learning something now, Gracie. You could become a blacksmith like your great-great-great-great-grandfathers were, you know. But it takes the bounce out of things, you know, that wood just, and it takes the ringing. It takes.
Anvil's beautiful. When you hear somebody and that anvil is singing because they're hammering on it, it is just beautiful. The smoke, you know, you don't want to breathe the smoke, but it smells fantastic from a forge, new forge that I just built. And if time permits, then I'll get out there and start hand hewing an old oak beam. I've got several broad axes. There's plenty of people better at hand hewing than me, but I'm good enough to fake my way through it, you know, to where a person can learn something.
You know, yeah, those skill sets are absolutely awesome. And, you know, the blacksmith was the entrepreneur, you know, and they were the engineer, you know, and they were the manufacturer.
You want a community, you better have a blacksmith.
They did it all, and most of the Iron Age, you know what I'm saying, basically come from blacksmith and their ideas and turning wood into iron, and then, you know, iron into what it has become, you know.
I've got all kinds of tools that don't make any sense, that you know someone made for some specific reason. I just hang it up there so people can look at it.
Gracie, I've been sitting here. Why didn't you tell me? You got stuff to talk about
Well,
here.
you kept looking. I was just waiting.
You know? Okay. So we're going to take a break here on KTUI 1560 AM, 94.1 FM, or Facebook Live. And Grace is going to tell you what else is going on this weekend coming up here in our neck of the woods.
Yes. As we were talking about, Zelch Welding and Zelch Farms is having a Bluegrass Music Day. It is free admission. It's from 11 till 4 on Saturday, May 8th, out on Highway T in Rosebud. They will have food and drink available, live bluegrass music, blacksmith demonstrations, crafts and displays, log cabins, refreshments from the Wood Cook Stove, Pioneer Farm Life, and bring your lawn chairs. And shade pickers are welcome.
There you go.
The Onslow Masonic Lodge is hosting a barbecue Saturday, May 8th. Curbside pickup is available. They will be having pork steak plates and rope sausage and pork burger plates. It is open to the public, and plates will include 2 side dishes. They will be serving from 10:30 until 2. The Owensville Lions Club is having a drive-through barbecue at the Lions Club on Crosstown Road Friday, May 7th. They'll be serving from 10:30 until sold out. Delivery is available. They'll be serving pork steak sandwiches and brat sandwiches.
What is that there? The Owensville
Lions Club.
Lions Club, okay.
This Friday night at the White Mule, we will be serving steak, shrimp, pork chops, and beef kebabs from 5 until 8:30. Saturday, we will be serving pizza, wings, hamburgers, and steaks from 5 until 8:30. And then Sunday, which is Mother's Day, we are serving all-you-can-eat pan-fried chicken and roast beef from 11 until 4 this week. But right now, we have 3 o'clock or later available for reservations.
So we got music?
We have music. Dave Benson will be here on
So
Sunday.
we have music Sunday, Mother's Day, at the big day, for us. And hopefully, like Clyde said, weather will be, delightful, because it just makes it better. But if it rains, it rains. That's just how it is. So that's all coming up here in our neck of the woods this weekend. And pretty soon, Grace, we're going to start opening back up and be able to talk about some picnics that churches are going to have, and really ready to get back into that mode of things, and being able to socialize and eat. Gosh, I miss homemade ice cream, and
Me too.
fish sandwiches and homemade ice cream, and a good time of the year. So that's what's going on here this weekend. So make plans right now to support one of these activities or other activities, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be warm enough to enjoy it, and whatever it is, it'll be a great weekend. So the main point of this weekend is the one that brought us here, our mothers. So do not forget about honoring your mother and the sacrifices that she's made for you, and it's a very little payback, whatever you do for your mother, to make sure that you show her a little bit of the love that she continues to show you. And if you have a mother, you're blessed to have one around, and if not, take some time to honor her, if she's not on earth anymore, because it's good stuff. And mothers, Gracie, it's all about mothers, right?
Yep.
It is all about mothers.
All the food that you got to make for them babies, all the diapers you got to change.
So, Clyde, it's been a pleasure, as it always is, talking with you, and good luck this weekend.
God willing.
Don't forget about your mother, you know what I'm saying, and your wife's mother, and whoever,
My wife will not let me forget about her or my mom still.
Yeah, well, good to have you, and we shall be back here next Thursday. Who's on next week?
Oh,
Uh-huh. We have a guest next week.
talking about the fair.
That's true. We're going to talk about more volunteers and what we need. Gascony County Fair, and Nick Baxter. And I think Amanda and several others will be here, trying to find out remedies to finding people to help. That's the bottom line. Getting the word out. You can't put on these kind of events without having a lot of volunteers, and they are in short supply. So we'll have to beat the bushes and find out new ways to motivate them and get them out, and so we can continue with those things that has made our community such a wonderful place to be. Clyde, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
And Gracie, we'll see you next. Well, we'll see you after a while, but we'll see you next week also. God bless you. good Lord willing, we'll be back here next week from the White Mule. Thank you for being here.
News with Lance Pry.
Putting more insight into President Trump's Facebook ban being upheld Wednesday morning, former Facebook executive Chris Kelly tells Fox News, although the rules are behind a veil of secrecy, the ultimate goal is transparency.
I think the setting up of the oversight